Hey, how's it going there, folks? Welcome back here. It is the Earthmaster. End of the weekend is upon us here. It is Sunday, April 28th, 2024. It's about 2:54 p.m. here, California time. 3:54 where I'm at here, Mountain Time right now. Moving a little bit further to the west here in Colorado. All right, so latest activity here shows a 4.3 earthquake into the area of South America. Now, we're going to cover what's going on out at the Kilauea Volcano first. There's definitely been some elevated activity out here in terms of earthquake movement. This is the latest updated information here that was put out from the USGS, stating that the Kilauea Volcano currently is not erupting, but there is significant increase in seismicity beneath the upper east rift zone and the caldera south of the crater area. That began early yesterday. And it is continuing to this date with little change. So updates are being provided daily while the heightened state of unrest continues. Now, this earthquake activity is occurring roughly around 1.5 to 2.5 kilometers. That's going to be 1 to 1.5 miles below the surface. Earthquakes look like they're occurring about 10 to 15 per hour. Compared to 2 to 5 per hour before the April 27th timeframe. So obviously ground deformation is an indicator there, and we've been seeing it here recently of magma inflation underneath the summit region. The summit remains inflated, and overall ground deformation rates remain low, according to the USGS here. But with ongoing inflation at the summit, and uplift of the caldera, south of the caldera. So they're talking about overall ground deformation, but at the summit region and just south of the caldera, that's where we're seeing our elevated inflation activity. So that's going to be this region right here where this earthquake activity is occurring. Now, it almost looks like we may be seeing an eruptive fissure activity out here around the upper east rift zone, as they noted right here on the USGS map. There's about 87 earthquakes here in the last 24 hours. Now, if we go back here the last 7 days and check out all magnitudes, that pretty much doubles the number. Now, remember, this earthquake swarm kicked up yesterday morning, so the majority of these quakes here are from yesterday and today, with 170 earthquakes out here. You can see two distinct areas here, south of the summit and the upper east rift zone here, that we're going to have to watch pretty closely here. All seismic activity on the East Rift Zone is confined to the Upper East Rift Zone, with no significant earthquakes or deformation occurring past the Amana, not for sure how you pronounce that region. Seismicity in the Kilauea Summit Rift Zone remains low overall. Goodness, but obviously we got some elevated activity out here in terms of earthquake movement. So deformation, let's go over here and check out the overall deformation data, which they state is overall low. Now, this is just going to be the summit region here, the Kilauea Summit, the past 2 days. Now, we had seen a decent inflation event right here. Looks like in the past 8-10 hours we've seen a little bit of deflation, but the overall trend out here is still quite elevated. And if you look here over the past year, this is the a global positioning system there at the Kilauea Summit, indicating inflation. Now, back at the end of February, maybe the beginning to middle of February, we've seen our highest level of inflation there since 2018. We've seen a huge displacement days later, with the magma being displaced from the summit region, a huge drop. This was not an eruption, this was a displacement of magma off to the southwest rift zone. And since then, we've been steadily building up. Now we're at the previous level here of what we had seen prior to that displacement of magma. So things are getting interesting here. There's obviously some concern of the eruptive activity out here. I think we will see a major increase in earthquake activity. I'm talking about maybe hundreds of earthquakes leading up to and just prior to any fissure activity opening up out here across the area, which could include obviously out here across the upper east rift zone, or potentially just south here of the summit region. So definitely got to watch that. Let's check out the webcams out there. I believe I got the webcam set up here for the Kilauea Volcano. which is right about here. So the East Rift Zone right here. Let's check out the Upper East Rift Zone, see what's going on. I don't see anything of concern right now. Of course, this is from today's date. It says Sunday, April 28th, although up here it shows 8/28/2020, but this is the current date, it looks like right there. This one as well looks pretty clear out there. This one looks like it's from today as well. So really no visual surface activity going on there, but obviously underneath the region we have to watch here with some elevated activity kicking in here. So the USGS is doing these daily updates because of the elevated activity, and we're continuing to monitor the ongoing movement below the summit region. All right, let's see what else we got here across the rest of the world, and then we'll go over a little bit about some weather activity here at the end of this update. Northern California here looks like a handful of smaller quakes. The latest a 2.4, 22 kilometers deep here into the southern end, the very extreme southern end. Even though it may not show it right here, there is a portion of the Cascadia subduction zone, a portion of this plate that still extends underneath this area down to about right here. And you can see it on the tremor map. Let me show you guys what I'm trying to say here. This is a tremor, 200 epicenters of tremor, obviously across the Washington and Oregon area, underneath this area. If we were to go back for, let's just go back the last couple of years. I want to show you guys how far the tremor goes underneath the Northern California area and down into this region. See right about here is the extent of how far, maybe even a little bit deeper underneath here if we were to go deeper underneath this region. But the Cascadia subduction zone sits right about here far as the interface region. That's where the Juan de Fuca plate subducts underneath the North American plate, right about here, the Cascadia megathrust area. And as you can see, that does extend well in here and kind of away from the plate boundary. It's a little bit more south here on the map, but or down, I should say. But it's down there. We definitely get some tremor activity occurring down underneath Northern California. And upstream here, where we're seeing the activity today, that little 2.2 or 2.4, excuse me, within the last hour, is down there into the subduction zone, 22 kilometers deep. I always like to look at the depth of the earthquakes to decide on whether these are surface faults or into the Cascadia, and in this case, that's going to be a Cascadia subduction zone quake, along with this 2.1, a little bit closer up here to the area itself, the plate boundary where the subduction zone begins. All right. San Francisco, what's going on out here? One earthquake, not a big deal, a little 1.0 outside of Berkeley, California, and the Pacific Northwest. Well, not a whole lot going on out here for now. It does look like Texas area is still seeing some movement. You see what's going on down here in California, Southern California, with a 2.5 map and above. Stand by for a second here. Here's a 2.5 map and above. It removes all these earthquakes, although it looks like it's a little bit more active down here today. Do see we are seeing a little bit of earthquake swarming here at the very extreme southern end of the Elsinore fault. That does extend way up into the Los Angeles area and then way down here into the Mexicali area past that region. That's shown a little bit of activity here today, with a couple of ones and some smaller quakes out there in that region. As far as the San Andreas Fault, it's sleeping right now, and that is a good thing. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up here for now. A little 1.5 up into Montana. But let's double check the Yellowstone overview here. Want to make sure we got the latest update, which we do. And there's been a handful of earthquakes here in the last 24 hours. Nothing big. See these little spikes right here? They are showing up across various other local seismograph stations here, which obviously those are earthquakes, and very small ones. So those are probably about 1.7 and below in terms of the magnitude. The rest of the park out there looks pretty quiet. Let's see what else we got across the rest of the country. Goodness, a lot of damage out here in Oklahoma last night. Man, It's unfortunate. New Jersey activity seeing a little bit of movement as well. Looks like from yesterday and today, 6 more earthquakes in the last 24 hours. So we're still going to keep an eye on that. Obviously, aftershock activity is expected, but if we see this increase in the multitude of quakes out here, that could tell us that we're looking at maybe something larger, or maybe another decent-sized earthquake within the vicinity of the earthquake activity here a couple weeks back when they had that 4.8 shaking things up out there in New Jersey. All right, Puerto Rico area, still seeing some swarming going on here north of the U.S. Virgin Islands area. See that little swarm right here? Kicking up. Bunch of threes coming in there this morning. 32, 56, 43 kilometers deep here. Keep an eye on it. This region does see some large, very large earthquakes. Subduction zone over here to the east as well. That looks pretty quiet for now, but overall increasing movement here across the region of the Puerto Rico area. There's our most recent quake there underneath the San Antonio de los Cobres area, about 195 kilometers deep for that 4.3 earthquake. The Atlantic Ocean got one little earthquake. I believe that was from yesterday. Well, earlier this morning, I should say, about 4.6, super early in the morning, just after midnight. Did see some activity out here in the Red Sea area. 5.0 coming in from yesterday. Doesn't look like anything else coming in there today. A little 4.4 further away from this area. This is a divergent zone, right? Separation. Rift zone out here. Of course, when that happens, that can apply further pressure upstream. And it looks like things are getting a little amplified up here across this area following that 5-pointer. So we'll continue to watch this area. It does have effect on what goes on across the Middle East, Mediterranean region. Definitely keep an eye on that. Taiwan area did see a couple more earthquakes here today, 4.1, 4.4 in that same area where we've been seeing a decent earthquake swarm out here recently. Still a little unsure whether we're going to see any further movement out there. It was looking likely here a few days back when we had a decent earthquake swarm come up out of the blue. Of course, earlier in the month we did see a 7.4 and multiple other large earthquakes there for an aftershock sequence, but then it calmed down completely, and then all of a sudden we've seen that most recent swarm going on. So we'll keep an eye on it. Definitely still think that it's possible we could see some further large-scale movement out there in that area, bigger than the 7.4. The Japan area, one earthquake way over here. Well, I was kind of surprised here that this was going to be deep, but it's not. 4.5 from last night, pretty shallow, into looks like around the Korea Bay area, 10 kilometers deep, and up into the Japan area here. One earthquake from today, 4.6 here off the east coast of Japan, just off the region of Fukushima. All right, down here across the New Zealand area, looks pretty quiet here, at least on the map. 5.2 from early this morning, a Tonga earthquake, 168 kilometers deep for that quake. Let me go over here to the GeoNet servers, and we'll take a look here real quick, see what's going on. Couple twos being reported out there across the area of North Island, including a 3.4 coming in there yesterday time frame. Look at the earthquake drums out here across New Zealand. Does show some of that smaller earthquake activity. Not seeing any major swarming going on. Looks like a typical region along a major plate boundary, but still lacking some large-scale movement out here, which it's possible we could see things adjust there pretty soon. Look at that activity in Hawaii, just still continuously kicking up. Gotta watch that, folks. All right, let's go check out the activity up in Iceland. I think things are still continuing up there. We got about 29 earthquakes in the last 6 hours. Really nothing major. A little swarming going on up here across this northern area of Iceland. But the region down here across the Grindavik area looks about the same. We'll go check out live from Iceland is the site to check out here for a visual perspective, and it looks like things are still active here with at least one active vent there in that area. Now, of course, we've been looking at elevated inflation across this region with, look at this, even with this ongoing eruption, we're still seeing things elevated underneath the area. So it's expected here pretty soon that we may see some newer activity open up out here across the region of around the Grindavik area or within the vicinity of the ongoing current eruption there. So that's something to watch. It's definitely elevated. We'll probably know, obviously we'll know when things kick up because we'll see either new fissure activity or we'll see that increasing activity there across the current eruption region. So I got to change this here. SolarHam, formerly .net, has moved over to solarham.com. So I do have to change that in my bookmarks there. They are up and running. Current flaring activity looks a lot less than it has been in the last couple days. C flare activity at 99% chance, M flare at 35%, and X flare around 5% chance here. And as you can see on the solar flare detection chart, we've been popping a little bit here with some C flare activity, but really nothing major. Things are looking somewhat quiet out here on the Earth-facing side of the sun. As we check out the visual perspective here of the magnetic image of these sunspot cores, shows only really one active region out here worth watching, but not a huge threat at all from that area. If we go check out the far side of the sun, see what's coming around the bend. This was put out today, it looks like. Here's our current region. There's that big active region that has come around the sun a couple different times now. We'll see if that holds back for a third or fourth time when it comes back around. This is the far side. This is the western limb, eastern limb over here. It does look like there's one little area here, maybe a couple more that are going to be coming around the eastern limb right here. These are the eastern limb, but it just the way that's laid out here on the page looks like it's off on the west, but it's not. Eastern limb here. So these couple sunspots will be coming around the bend here for a visual perspective here soon. No major roars in the forecast. Things look fairly quiet for now, folks. All right, we'll talk about storm reports out here. Look at this from yesterday. I was out here in Oklahoma last night and had a couple close calls out here around Sulphur, Oklahoma, and around Marlow, Oklahoma. We were in Marlow, Oklahoma when the tornado warning went off. That specific tornado ended up going into the Moore, Oklahoma area. There was a couple large trees knocked down there around Marlow. There was a really large earthquake or a large tornado in the Sulphur area of Oklahoma. That was a close call because me and Missy Mimi's were out here observing this activity last night, and we were just about ready to jump on that forward line of storms that had popped up. And I'm glad we didn't. We decided to rest and not continue on because of the visibility issue with a lot of rain and the uncertainty on if there's actually a tornado in there or not. We were using radar, obviously, but at the same time, you know, these tornadoes can leave a lot of debris on the ground, and you got all that rain coming down. It's not worth it at night. Very dangerous situation. So I'm glad I did not extend my night any further last night. But we had 38. This is 2000. Yeah, this is 27th. We had 38. Or no, excuse me, 41. Did that just pop up here? Looks like that just upgraded here. Are we still live? Okay, that was weird. Now it's 39. I don't know what's going on. A whole bunch of stuff going on there. So 39 reports of tornadoes out here across Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, into Iowa. It was a horrible day. This was pretty much a tornado outbreak yesterday. And some large hail out there as well, wind. And, you know, unfortunately, this was a high-risk day. And it hit some populated regions, and luckily for a lot of folks out there, the tornado sirens had gone off. We heard them ourselves, and I think that may have limited the amount of injuries and whatnot, but there was some injuries and unfortunately some fatalities as well. So it's unfortunate. Definitely be sending out positive thoughts for those that were affected from this event yesterday and overnight. Today, we still have a decent threat here of some severe weather that sits out there in eastern Texas. Decided to pass this up here because, goodness, this is a very wooded area. Lots of trees out here. In fact, the storm chasers call this the jungle in terms of chasing. So me and Missy Mimi's decided to not go with this. So we're over here in eastern Colorado just looking at a few things. There is a 5% chance of tornado probability out here today across eastern Texas, and a large 2% zone extending further north. Wind and a little bit of hail damage as well. So the overall threat is less than yesterday, but it's still there. So we need to keep an eye on the weather out there. Today's report so far coming in looks like mainly wind, and that's about it. Some hail reports coming in as well. Here's all the raw reports from yesterday on the tornado activity. The county affected remarks in regards to the activity. Now, the 39 that was reported here is confirmed. These are all some confirmed, some unconfirmed, but we're looking at about 48 reports here. And this could be observed on radar. Either way, it's probably going to take them a couple days to go out and visualize if there was actually a tornado produced or not. But this is a raw report, and goodness, that was definitely a tornado outbreak out there today or yesterday. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. Let's check out the forecast out here. This is today, this is tomorrow. Not a whole lot. On Tuesday, it looks like some severe weather potential stretching up into way up into Nebraska area. These same regions here that were affected a couple days ago with some large tornadoes. So they're dealing with some more severe weather as we head into early next week, unfortunately. Tropical Tidbits here is a cool site to monitor the weather trends and weather models. Got a few laid out here. Let me see what we got for the forecast. There is next week, there's a low pressure system. This almost looks identical to what we just dealt with. Low pressure here, kind of towards the Colorado area and Nebraska. Warm Gulf moisture here, unlimited moisture, and that's just a perfect setup for hopefully not, but a repeat of what occurred here yesterday. We're going to have to watch that pretty closely. See that setup? Looks quite dangerous. So we'll cover that, and looks like West Coast going to get some rain out here again for April, almost coming into May. I mean, literally, it's almost May here in a couple days. That's quite rare for us to get this many wet systems out here this late in the year. This is not our rainy season. Most of the time, our rain comes in from January to March, or November to March, excuse me. So we should start drying out, but I'll take the added moisture. Let's see, is there anything else here, folks? I think that's about it. So yeah, I will definitely keep watching the weather for next week, and if it looks like it does on the weather model, that could be a serious deal. And I don't know who all has storm shelters out here. I don't know if it's required to have a storm shelter, but it's unfortunate that some people got injured and worse from the events yesterday. There's got to be a way to prevent it. I know we're trying to limit it, trying to provide safety for everyone by getting out early warnings, but I think it's key, very key, to be weather aware out here these days, and this time of year. It's a very serious deal, and those were nighttime events out here, very scary nighttime events when people are probably just going to sleep. Unfortunately, when you're in that type of situation, the best thing probably to do is to stay awake, or maybe sleep in the storm shelter, storm cellar, because these things can pop up and it gets serious out here, day or night. But all right, folks, I'm out of here. Gonna jump off here and get some stuff done on this end out here in beautiful Colorado. Blue clear skies, a little bit of cumulus out here right now, but Colorado has some beautiful clear skies. I love it. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later, folks. Take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend.